A lot of us don't like to talk about death. It can tear us apart, and saying goodbye to a loved one is often the hardest thing that any of us will ever have to do. But in this case, it was not only death, but also a betrayal of trust and traditions buried.
They
say that a parent's work is never done. Most of us go through life never thinking about having to go through something like this. The unbearable, bring you to your knees kind of pain that only comes with having to bury your child.
And I think they owe us an apology.
For Cindy Carpenter and her husband, that pain is real and raw. 11 weeks ago, they had to bury their daughter, Chelsea, cancer taking her at just 33.
It's past anger. I don't know if it's anger. I'm mad, I'm hurt, I'm heartbroken, I'm everything.
Making their pain even worse, they were told they wouldn't be able to bury their daughter in the traditional Jewish manner.
So the ritual of Jewish burial includes 3 parts. Part 1 is the lowering of the casket. Part 2 includes the covering of the casket by the people attending the funeral. Part 3 is the ultimate covering, sometimes by the staff in the cemetery and sometimes by people who volunteer to stay there to complete that part.
While going through the worst 24 hours of their lives, making funeral plans for Chelsea, the Carpenters decided to purchase plots for their entire family.
We bought 5 plots for both of our daughters, our one daughter's husband, our son-in-law, and then Jim and I. We spent $50,000 that day.
Before they signed the contract, they were told that Paradise Memorial Gardens, which had recently been purchased by Messenger Funeral Homes, would no longer allow traditional Jewish burials. But Chelsea's funeral was scheduled for the next morning.
But we chose that because it was a beautiful place for our child to rest. It was a beautiful place. So would I choose someplace else knowing what I now know? I probably would have made another choice.
Rabbi Pinchas Halush of Congregation Beth Tefillah couldn't believe it.
Never. And I've done hundreds of funerals. I've officiated at hundreds of funerals here in the Valley, many cemeteries. I am going tomorrow to Los Angeles to officiate a funeral, also in a large cemetery. And I've officiated again many funerals across the country too. And this has never happened to me.
No proper Jewish burial in a cemetery with a special section reserved for Jewish people? The rabbi called a former congregant, a lawyer, and within hours, the cemetery relented. The weeks went by, and slowly the Carpenters began the long process of healing and acceptance. But then on January 31st, just 11 weeks later, their second daughter, Courtney, passed. How could they go on, plan another funeral, less than 3 months after they buried their first daughter? How could it be? But once again, they found themselves begging the cemetery to allow them to bury their daughter according to Jewish law.
Not only did I have to deal with burying 2 children in such a short amount of time, for very different reasons, but they turned the knife. They turned the knife on me. And I think they owe us an apology. I don't know how you can make something right that didn't include a complete Jewish burial.
I reached out to Paradise Memorial Gardens and received this statement. We recognize that some of our recent safety policies do not fully align with certain religious traditions. However, these policies were implemented after careful consideration and reflect our responsibility to ensure the safety of all attendees on site at Paradise Memorial Gardens. No matter how hard the Carpenters and the rabbi fought, this time there would be no lowering of the coffin. Her parents, deprived of being able to see their daughter, finally at rest after a proper Jewish burial.
So we believe that every single human being has a combination of body and soul. The body and the soul work together in this lifetime to achieve the mission that they were sent to achieve in this world. When the soul leaves the body, it cannot rest fully until its counterpart is resting. And so we believe that the soul is hovering upon the grave, and only when it sees that the burial is completed, again, by lowering the casket, covering the casket fully, does the soul finally rest. So it is extremely important to fulfill that because it brings comfort to the soul And knowing this, it also brings tremendous comfort to the family.
And for Cindy, who fought for her daughter Courtney for years because she had special needs, the fight isn't over.
What do you think she would say to you about this fight that you're fighting?
Courtney, go mom. Go mom, because I've done it all her life.
It is a really sad situation. Again, technically, the cemetery did nothing illegal. But if you are watching and you own a cemetery plot there and you want a Jewish burial, you probably should reach out to them directly.
Where's the humanity?
I
In
know.
that.
Yeah, well, now, in fairness, they say, look, this is all about safety for the attendees. But Jewish burials like this have taken place for thousands of years.
Yes.
And to do this, it's sort of a bait and switch, because these Jewish people that bought plots anticipating the day that they'll have to bury a loved one
In that section.
in that special Jewish section, what do they do now? They own plots, but they won't be able to bury their families in a traditional Jewish manner.
so their second daughter was never fully put to rest.
Right.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
And for a family to bury two daughters within 11 weeks and to have to go through this just adds to the trauma and the pain.
Oh, you so feel for them.
Oh,
Feel so
absolutely.
bad for them. Wow. Well, I hope that I don't know, maybe there's hope in changing things.
Yeah, look, I know for a fact that people have reached out to the cemetery, and the cemetery says it's in the process of re-examining its policy.
You hope.
And we will pass that on if it does change, but as of right now, nothing has changed.
That's very unfortunate, to say the least.
It is. Our hearts go out to that family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.